Welcome to Invention Mode. I'm Tanya Kohen, and this is the podcast where we explore how real change happens inside modern organizations, not just through big innovation, but through small, smart acts of invention. Each week, I talk to leaders, problem solvers, and accidental inventors who reimagine how things get done. We're here to uncover the overlooked ideas that quietly unlock big value and inspire a mindset where invention becomes part of everyday work. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Invention Mode podcast. In episode 1, we explored how invention differs from innovation, why it often delivers deeper impact, and what it takes to create an environment where ideas can truly grow. Today, I'd like to look at how personal readiness fuels organizational transformation and why going beyond automation is essential. Change often begins with a single step, a spark of curiosity when you notice that others overlook, and a gut feeling that things can and should be different, or simply the drive to challenge yourself. What's crucial is that even the smallest shift in the process can create ripple effects across an entire organization. Let's dive into the power of hidden potential, and that often goes untapped within individuals, within teams, and within the data organizations already have. Joining me is Tracey Knight, a seasoned expert in treasury transformation, to share stories of how fresh perspective on existing data led to breakthroughs that reshaped the way organizations operate. Let me do a brief intro. Tracey Knight is a nationally recognized treasury and finance technology expert with over 30 years in FinTech. She has worked with thousands of companies to modernize their treasury and finance operations, guiding them through the challenges of technology selection, implementation, and transformation. As a founding partner at Real Treasury, she leads clients through technology selection and transformation using her firm's proprietary and practical framework, AirNot, designed to eliminate vendor bias and ensure faster, more effective results. Really happy to have you today, Tracey. Hi.
Hi, Tanya. It's so great to be with you today. We've known each other for a while, so this is a lot of fun.
Exactly. And we've been co-speaking for quite some time now. So I'm also very excited to have you on this episode today, Tracey. Well, let's jump right in. Let's talk about transformation. Many companies talk about being ready for transformation. What does it mean to you? And what's the role of personal readiness in this case?
Well, you said ready organizations. What does it take for a company to be ready? I think for the company level, it's planning a strategic plan at an organizational level, especially around the data. A company that's really ready for transformation has already established a company wide plan for how they're going to manage AI, how they're going to manage their data. They've got budget for it. They've got executive level approval, not just approval, but promotion for this movement forward. But that's at a company level. At an individual level, I think personal readiness is equipping yourself for the changes that are happening. There are way too many resources, free ones even, available to all of us to learn more about AI and what it can really do, to learn how we can begin to harness it ourselves, to hear from others some of the wins and, frankly, failures that other companies have had. So I think personal readiness is about embracing the fact that all these changes are here now. We're no longer talking about the future, it's the present. And so making sure we equip ourselves and learn enough and educate ourselves so that we can embrace the change that's happening.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great perspective. So it's a combination, right? So it's never just about one person being, well, there are people that are catalysts of change. Again,
Mhm.
I've seen that, but I think for real kind of noticeable impact, it kind of has to come both ways. So companies and culture-wise and resources-wise need to be ready, but also on the personal level, I agree that we should do more to prepare ourselves, and it's up to each and every person to kind of get into this mindset. You work with many organizations on treasury transformation. What patterns do you see when it comes to hidden opportunities in their data?
I think the opportunities are around expanding, not contracting. And it seems like when we often think about the opportunities we have, especially in the finance department, we often think about saving money, how to reduce expenses. But I think we need to spend as much time or more thinking about how we can do more, how we can maybe generate more revenue, how we can expand our operations rather than looking for savings and looking for ways to kind of contract. And so the hidden opportunities in data is around just a way of looking at things in a new way and perhaps looking at things more holistically. We often just think about our own small area, our own department, our own silo. But the hidden opportunity in data is if we're able to see a better view of our whole company, start seeing how things relate to each other, something that's happening in a plant or a factory, and how does that impact cash down the road? What things are they doing that maybe Treasury could be involved in if we're kind of looking at this from a Treasury perspective? So I think we need to think more outside the box and stop just thinking about saving money. Let's think about earning more instead.
Yeah, I love this. So it's really a more opportunistic approach, and I think there are so many synergies and opportunities for departments to work cross-functionally. I've been a big fan of cross-functional projects for a while, and I think for Treasury, thinking about cash cycle and cash cycle conversions and improvements in this regard, that's a key to a lot of successes. But what you just mentioned about understanding the business a little more, I think it's very important too, because we've been talking about how important it is to bring treasury to the table early in any project, how important that part is. But how about us, in treasury trying to proactively understand different processes and how we could contribute to each one of them? Because to me, cash is very much involved in almost every process and operation. Either it starts with it or it ends with it. So there is impact that treasury can make with bringing banking services and products and just more automation, more cross-functional collaboration. Do you think there is always room for treasury to sort of insert themselves into projects and processes, and would that be helpful?
Most definitely. I think the way we do it, though, is by getting outside of our office and being focused on what our company really does. What's our main mode of generating revenue? And then beginning to understand that process more. So, whatever it is that your company does, if your services, understand more about the services that you offer and the people who do it. If you're manufacturing, then get out and talk to the plants and have lunches and just get out of the box and get to know more people around the entire company. And then beyond that, you can do things to understand more about where your company is going. If you're public, you can look at the investor briefings and say, What are we saying to the outside world? What are we telling the street about where we're going and our opportunities for growth?" And then say, okay, how does that relate to us? How can we offer something to help the operations in these strategic plans that our company has? Sometimes it is getting involved in foreign exchange in areas where maybe you haven't previously done it. At many companies, foreign exchange is still handled by procurement or some buying organization that has to do with the buying of whatever physical things you might be getting. But those can be bifurcated. You can handle the financial aspects separate from the physical delivery. And those are things that Treasury can often do very well, that Treasury has extra expertise in managing those foreign exchange exposures. So there can be many different ways we might get involved in operations, but you have to first understand them. So getting out of your office is key.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I guess one of the results of all this involvement and collaboration would be collecting data. Just trying to bring this back to the actual action items that we can work on after we've discussed all these things cross functionally and understood. So we're collecting data points, right? So like trying to think kind of through the next steps. How do you think data drives or even reshapes the way we invent? So, how do we think through the collected data? How do we work with it? And how do we find insights in it? How do we invent?
I think the first is getting more data in one place. So companies that proactively figure out how they're going to manage, a data lake or whatever you want to call it, getting more data in one place so that as a company, you have access not to just to the data associated with your one department, but data associated with the rest of the company as well. And think about that. This is what AI does best. AI is great when you have lots of data. It is able to do what we often are unable to do as humans, which is sort through a ton of data looking for the indications, the correlations, the patterns. That's what AI does very, very well. And the thing about AI, when you do it properly, all AI is doing is saying, did you notice? And it does so without a hypothesis. This is what can make it better than the human equivalent of did you notice? When we as humans do it, we often have our underlying thought process as to what we want the data to say. We've already kind of determined an outline, and therefore we make sure the data kind of says what we want it to say. You hear people say over and over again, data can say anything for anybody. They just kind of manipulate it to reinforce their point. But when done properly, AI has this ability just to do it without hypothesis. Not saying it's good or bad, it's just a did you notice? An example of that might be in, let's say, AP payment data. Did you notice that payments to this one particular vendor has increased by 50% over the last 2 years? Now, it could be that's a great thing. Maybe you're able to buy a whole lot more from a vendor because your business has grown tremendously and your purchases have increased from a vendor because they've got the right pricing. So it could be that that is a great thing. Yep. We didn't actually maybe notice it in dollars per se, but it is an expected trend. Or it could be the opposite. It could be maybe that fraud is happening and someone has been somehow paying money out to a vendor that they shouldn't be. So the AI doesn't know whether this is a good or bad thing. It's simply a did you notice? And so the more you're able to bring data together from a wide variety of sources in a way that makes good sense, that the system can use, then the more the system, the AI, is able to see correlations between different things. And it just becomes a did you notice? Did you notice that when thing A increases, subject B decreases? Is that something that you noticed? And so then that's where the human comes in. It says, did you notice this? And then you say, yes, I did. And this is why, or no, I didn't. Let me investigate more. And so I think data, um, having a data plan as an organization is the key to all participants being able to think differently, being able to understand the big picture of a company so much better.
I couldn't agree more. And what you said about hypothesis, that's really key here because I think for someone in finance, for an analyst to really come up with a hypothesis that to check it, right? That this would mean doing some research and proactively trying to find some kind of areas that need further investigation. This is one approach, and this is the approach we've been taking always, I think, in finance, especially when we talk about kind of sometimes a little backward looking approach. That's pretty much what we mean. We already noticed something's off. We're trying to figure out what it is it exactly, how to help it. Then we have this hypothesis. Okay, let's test it. Some assumptions. Let's see, right? So, but what you're saying now, it's a whole different approach to improvement. I think this ensures continuous improvements because this is exactly what machines can give us, this relentless research, nonstop insights into the data. So yes, 100%, this is the future. And I like how you're framing this. Did you notice? Yes, the decision-making support, so to speak, from AI tools. This is something that so many teams need. When treasury teams in their daily work and kind of their improvements of their daily work. Do you think that treasury teams often overlook the repetitive tasks that could be automated? Is it something that, in your opinion, treasury departments pay enough attention to?
Um, we definitely overlook lots of things. I think for a variety of different reasons. One is just habit. There are some things that we do out of habit. We've been doing them for a long time. It seems like it's nothing to us, and so we don't question it. Sometimes we think there's not enough time spent on it to worry about, but we don't really always think of the cumulative time that we're spending, and so you'll say to yourself, well, it's only, 15 minutes. Maybe it's 15 minutes a day. And you're thinking, well, that's not that much, but 15 minutes a day, I didn't do the math ahead of time, but I don't know how many hours is that in the work environment. And if you had all that time back, what would you have done instead? Is there something on the bottom of your list of things that you say, one day I'm going to get to that if I just had more time? Well, you could have more time. You're just not doing things to help bring that time together. And I think that that's common, that there are many repetitive tasks, but because we are in such the habit of doing them, that it takes sometimes someone from the outside, someone new, looking at what you're doing to actually call it to your attention. You're even unaware of the fact that you're doing it. So it's not negligence, it's simply just a lack of awareness. And then above and beyond that, I don't think we always value our time nor our roles enough. By that, I mean we often don't speak to or downplay the value of treasury. When your family members, when you see those that maybe you don't see often, when they ask you about what you do you minimize the impact of what treasury is to a company? I think many of us do. We'll say things like, well, we manage the company's, checkbook. It's like all the bank accounts, just like you do with your bank and your checkbook. And we'll kind of blow it off. And we don't talk about the real value that we bring to an organization, not just externally to our families, but internally to other people in the company. Treasury is almost invisible. And I think we are a big part of that we don't talk about it enough and that we don't talk about its importance enough. And if we really truly valued the value we provide and the importance of the role our roles have to the company, I think we would value our time more. And if we valued our time more, then we would be looking for things to offload, like repetitive tasks that are pretty mindless. And some things are truly that. It's like when you get in your car and you're not thinking and you just kind of start driving, you go to where you can drive without even knowing how you got there to places that you go often. It's that same way in our desk jobs. Some things we just do. We've been doing it that way for a while. We know exactly how to do without even thinking about it. Those are the very tasks that can be easily automated because it didn't require your brain power.
Yes, exactly. Valuing our time and just seems like it's a mindset, right? Getting into this mindset of just consciously being conscious about your time, about your tasks, and about, again, continuous improvement thereof. Because To me, it's just I think it's more interesting, right? If you're doing more meaningful, like kind of strategic work, it's just more fun and more interesting than just being stuck in the routine thing. So I think the motivation is there, but it's a mindset. It has to be done proactively. It doesn't just happen to us. And same with those like small inventions that drive the value for the organization forward. So what practical steps do you think someone can take today to embrace this invention mode and this new mindset?
I don't think there's anything really new or groundbreaking here. It's the same things that you likely heard your whole career, which is to ask why, to stay curious, to continue to learn both in the company and outside the company. So often we think that our companies are solely responsible for our education and learning. They are not. We need to be proactive in continuing to learn, especially with change happening at the rate that it is now. You've got to not be complacent. There is no such thing if you're getting a little bit older, you can't think about, kind of coasting out your last few years. The rate of change is happening way too fast for that. You may not make it to your last few years if you are doing a job that is too repetitive, too simple, too easily automated. When people say, is AI going to replace our jobs? Everybody likes to say, oh, no, 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 people are necessary. Well, that's not totally true. Let's be honest. Yes, AI can replace your job if your job is too mindless. So it's up to you to make sure that it's not. Find ways to utilize technology to automate all those things that really are mindless so that your job is one that requires, absolutely requires your thought, your expertise, your personal experience in the things that you do. That's what can't be replaced. So make sure that's what you are continually helping your job be one of real strategic value, not just a body keeping a seat warm. Those are the jobs where the seat altogether is going to go away.
Yeah, exactly. That's very, very important and powerful piece of advice for sure. Thank you so much, Tracy, for this interview. I will wrap up with three final questions, and you can give short answers or not so short answers, but just really, I would like to ask every guest, what does an invention mindset mean to you?
I would say an invention mindset is just the readiness to question and the readiness to change. Um, just staying st continue looking for those. That's what I would say. It's not being reactive, it's being proactive. It's looking for change, not just waiting for change to happen to you.
Fantastic. What do you think is missing in today's tech stack for finance and for treasury, for operations?
Some big problems have already been solved. If you don't have global cash visibility, that's your fault. That's something that's already solved. But I think, yeah, there are some other problems that still exist, mostly because of the silos that we talked about earlier. So I would say what's missing in the finance kind of tech stack. Um, it's mostly because of what I'm gonna call the big picture views. It's bringing together more data in a less siloed way. Even within treasury technology already that already exist, all those legacy platforms often have a hard time bringing together data that doesn't easily tie together. So, at different asset classes, you have a hard time getting that holistic view on one report. A true exposure, let's say, to a big bank that maybe you have FX with, and bank accounts, and some debt, and some investments, and maybe some derivatives. Can you get that one real, true view of your exposure to that bank all in one report? Legacy systems have a hard time with that just because of the way they were developed in the first place. And so, And then if you try to go beyond just treasury, then it gets even harder to get that complete cash view. So even when we talk about something that's pretty basic, the cash conversion cycle that might involve cash and AP and AR and maybe some inventory, how often do you get a really good view of that? It's requiring kind of an, let's call it an outside look, an outside way of being able to pull some of these things together in a view that is usable, a view from which you can make decisions. And I think that's where we are in finance right now. It's time for a bigger view, us thinking about data a new way so that we can start to make some better, bigger decisions.
One of the best takeaways from today's conversation, I think. Agreed. If you could improve one thing in a business, not necessarily tech related, what would it be?
This is maybe a little controversial, but I wish people could really understand the beauty of diversity. You know, DEI, that even the terminology is now out of style, mostly because the meaning was misunderstood and co opted. Diversity should mean designing a group of teams that have a diversity of thought. And that diversity of thought is what leads to bigger and better ideas. And so we're not talking about just gender and race. We're talking about experience and generations and approaches and backgrounds. That's true diversity. That's what we should be seeking. And so hiring people that are just like you, that you identify with and you feel an immediate bond with, that's not a good thing. We don't need a team of clones. They can't think and develop on the fly. So so look for people that are different than you, that think differently than you, that challenge you, that maybe you don't understand and feel an immediate bond with. That's a good thing. We'll get better and better ideas. Better ideas leads to more invention, more innovation, and eventually more revenue. Isn't that what we're really about from the work perspective?
Exactly. Thank you so much, Tracy. I really enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you for all the stories that and examples and all the important and interesting insights that you brought to the conversation. I'm encouraging our listeners to subscribe and to listen to all the following episodes. And please share your story of invention with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to hear from the audience. So thanks again, Tracy, and good luck, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Tanya.